Hello.
Hi, Stitch.
Speaking.
Hi, Stitch. It's Kojo from London. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, boss. Thanks for calling me.
No worries. Thank you for taking some time from your day. Try not to keep you too long. Just try to get a bit more insight into last weekend's actions. But yeah.
I got insight.
Oh,
yeah, whatever you want, man. Don't worry. Just ask questions. I'll answer them.
Oh, perfect. So I guess, Stitch, I guess if you're good, we'll start shortly. So basically, I want to just talk to you about how you got involved with Tyson Fury and the camp. It's well documented that he said you walked into the gym and you were and you shouted out, "This is the best Stitch man in the game." But how did the call? How did the sort of meeting? How did it come about? And had you worked with him before?
Well, I'll go from start to finish. Right? That's what you want anyway. But you remember in the last fight, one of the guys in the corner was a guy, Barry.
Yeah.
No, Capatillo. Yeah, exactly. He was there. But Kevin Barry's son, Taylor, worked the corner also. So anyway, he was friends with Tyson Fury, and he had called me leading up to this fight that he was going to speak to Tyson Fury about me working with him, right? And but let me add that Jorge Capetillo also told Tyson Fury to hire me because of the experience factor. So I'll get into that down the road. But so anyway, Taylor, told me and he asked me what my fees were and this and that, and I guess he kind of semi-negotiated. And then Kevin Barry, his father, called me days later and says that he was in the office, Bob Arum's office, talking about bringing in one of his heavyweights to fight on Top Rank, and that Bob Arum had asked Kevin Barry about me. And, of course, Kevin Barry gave me a thumbs up, and, he says, I hope you get it, and what have you not. And then another guy, Vidal Riley's manager here in boxing, Amir Abdallah, called me and said the same thing, But I guess evidently Bob Arum wanted me. From what I heard down the road, Tyson Fury, asked about me, and there were other guys in contention, and I'm the one that got the assignment.
Oh, nice. So obviously, I guess you've got that glowing reputation for the likes of, not just Kevin Barry, Abdullah to refer to you as well. So just talk to us about, how much of an easy decision was it to kind of work with Tyson when you knew, especially with the last fight where he received the large cut. How much of an exciting decision was it for you to be involved with this huge fight?
Oh, no, I think it's tremendous. Listen, and anybody that's in any field, whatever their field is, wants to reach the pinnacle of the top, right? And at this point, this is the top of the top, So, but just under the circumstances, which makes it a lot different, because I work with a lot of fighters, right? And I just booked Shakir Stevenson right now, and Virgil Hunter just called me right before you did, so I got to see what's going on there, and so work is not a problem, but these are the type of events under the circumstances, being that it was Cutman related, which is what I specialize in, and I was included in it. To me, it was a big opportunity. It identifies the importance of having a good cut man. And, before that slips away, I was real disappointed with Deontay Wilder's corner because they didn't have a cut man. And that's the importance of it. But it brought that to the light, and then it brought up my experience. People realize that, I've been in a lot of trenches, a lot of fights, and I've saved a lot of careers for a lot of guys, and Tyson Fury and Bob Arum figured that out, and they gave me a call.
Yeah. No, definitely. And, we'll definitely come back to what you saw in the opposite corner on Saturday night. But, again, I just want to go back to the cut that Tyson received in the Otto Wallin fight. Now, obviously, you're a specialist in, and as you say, cuts and treatments of those cuts. But when you saw that cut, what were you looking for to know that it would heal, or that it had healed, given the magnitude of such a fight? Because as somebody that's not in the industry as a specialist like yourself, a lot of the talk leading into this fight was that Wilder would be able to open the cut pretty easily, given his reputation of power. So, again, just talk to me about when you felt the repairs had been made to allow Fury to get into the fight.
Yeah, well, in the first one, of course, everybody was watching that fight, and when he got cut, and I know Jorge Capetillo is one of my best friends, and I was happy for him to be, working the fight. But I think when that situation happened with that big cut, and it was definitely a major cut, and that could have been stopped anywhere else, and it could have been stopped here, but I'm glad that they didn't. But Jorge, being under the circumstances, as quick as it came, and the experience that he didn't have to handle those type of cuts, he did the best that he could, and he did enough to control the bleeding for at least half the round. And whenever you could accomplish that and that type of cut, you've done the job. So, but getting into the second one, they realized that, and Jorge, and I got to bless his heart, because in this game of boxing, people just don't do what he did, and for them it's job security. Just like JD that got rid of Mark Breland. That was a cold shot, but that was job security. Well, Jorge, being that he's such a good friend with Tyson Fury, plus he's a great coach. Number one, as a boxing coach, he's a great coach. Better as a coach than as a cut man. But for him to realize his position, if that was to happen again, because Deontay Wilder, of course, kept emphasizing that he was going to open up the cut. He thought it'd be better to bring in, somebody with more experience, and that's how I was chosen to be with Tyson Fury, and God, it's memorable. I'm still doing interviews. I did a bunch of interviews leading up to the fight, and I'm still doing a bunch of interviews after the fight.
and that's, I was going to say that's crazy, but it's good as well, because again, in this game, it takes a while sometimes for some of the true players to get their recognition. So you've been in this game for a while. We've seen you in the Creed movies. We've seen you amongst the big fights. So I'm glad that, you're getting that even more recognized now. So you deserve it, Stitch. So again, just going back to the Tyson fight, and I'm not going to say how involved are you with the game plan, but in terms of sort of like consulting with you and sort of asking your opinions, when Sugar Hill and Fury and Andy Lee had decided that the plan was to walk Wilder down, again, did they engage with you to say, listen, this is our plan, how's my man's eye going to hold up, or did you have any concerns with that game plan once you had heard that that's what they're planning to do?
Man, you're a good journalist, brother. You asked some very, very, very good questions, and I'll give you some good answers. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, when I just came in the last 2 weeks before the fight. That's when I met Tyson Fury. So as the process went on with Bob Arum and this and that, and finally Taylor says that Tyson wants to meet you, and so I walk into the gym, and this is 2 weeks before he fights on a Monday, and I walk into the gym, and he puts his hand out, and he says, "Welcome to the team," right off the bat, and we, I was told that there was going to be a contract. I was told that there was going to be the fees, but there was nothing. And we took a picture. I said, well, "Can we take a picture? That way I know it's official." And he said, "Oh, of course." He said that. So when I met him, we shook hands. He welcomed me to the team, and then right off the bat, he showed me his cuts. And so I looked at both of them. We talked about them. The doctor, whoever did the work on him, did like a tremendous job on the top layer on both cuts, and so we talked about that, and that's why I say the questions are very, very good questions, because to get into the heart and soul of a fighter, you got to be there, right? If there's a certain amount of, there's a way you could go about it, especially with a new guy like Tyson Fury. So my job psychologically when I start working with a fighter is to let them understand that I'm there to take care of them. So as I'm looking at the cut, and I say, well, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. So I'm already giving my game plan. It's pretty simple. I'm going to do preventive maintenance. So every round I'm going to keep ice on the cut, just so it doesn't inflame, so it doesn't start swelling up. But that's my whole attention every round is going to be on that area. So don't worry about the cut, And then I tell them, the psychological parts is my job is for you to walk out of that ring as handsome as you walked in. Because these guys, even though they're badass dudes, deep inside they're all babies, and we all need to be taken care of. And the final things that I told them is, I'm gonna, in the ring, I'm gonna treat you like you're my son. So that's my part of it. So with Sugar Hill and Andy Lee, I came in at the perfect time because I came in really the final weeks of him preparing to fight Deontay Wilder. So he was already starting to peak. And I've been in enough fights and enough camps to know the system. But also with Sugar Hill, I worked with Emmanuel Stewart, his uncle, for 12 years with Vladimir Klitschko. So I'm familiar with that style that Sugar Hill taught Tyson Fury. Plus, I've also worked with Jonathan Banks as a fighter and as a coach, and he trains Triple G. So I understand that system as well as anybody. And what these guys did in the gym, what Sugar Hill and Andy Lee worked on in the ring was exactly what Tyson Fury. I mean, what they worked on in the gym was exactly what Tyson Fury did in the ring, and I was impressed. So Sugar Hill and Andy Lee did a great job, but credit to Tyson Fury because every minute of every round, whether he was shadow boxing or whatever he was doing, those 3 minutes to the second, he stayed focused. And it's hard for anybody, for me to see a fighter do that. Normally they'll shadow box and they'll, look and smile and do a joke or something like that. Brother, he stayed focused. And so by the third round, I knew that Deontay Wilder wasn't going to knock him out.
Yeah. And, that's definitely interesting for you to get that breakdown, and it's a great answer. I just wanted, so you said you were in camp with Fury for around, 2 weeks. So I guess that's great because you didn't have many concerns. But then just for the fans that aren't aware, do you get involved with this when they're sparring as well? So when they're sparring fighters, are you there to support at that stage as well to make sure that the cuts are healing or the maintenance of the cuts are are not susceptible to bleeding, or do you just kind of do it on the fight night?
Oh yeah, of course. When I first got there, I just kind of watched for the first 2 days, and then on the third day, I spoke to Sugar Hill. I said, look, let me when he spars, let me be the one to put the Vaseline on him, so that way we could kind of start understanding ourselves and you and I and Andy Lee start working as a team, and of course he agreed to that. So first day I worked with him, I applied the Vaseline on that. He get the headgear and put Vaseline on the gloves and just all the mechanics to working together as a team. So on the second day that I put Vaseline, his brother Shane says, Tyson, he says, when was the last time somebody applied Vaseline like that on your face? And he smiled. Oh no, he says the point was, has anybody ever applied Vaseline to you like that?
Yeah.
And he says, yeah. And he says, when? He goes, yesterday. And that was me. So right off the bat, the application that I used to apply Vaseline was different than these other guys, and he acknowledged that. So that was a nice little piece of confidence that we shared together.
Yeah, so. No, that's really good to hear. And in terms, again, if this is the first time you had worked with Fury, what impressed you about him, whether it was not just necessarily in the fight night, but just in the lead up to the fight?
Well, I worked with Vladimir Klitschko when Tyson Fury beat him, right? And I said, so I have a pretty good relationship with him one way or the other. So, but when I thought Vladimir was just going to steamroll him, and when Vladimir lost, I thought Vladimir just had a bad day. But then when I saw Tyson Fury fighting Deontay for the first time, I became an instant fan because I knew why Vladimir had a bad day, because Tyson Fury was so hard to read offensively and defensively, and is a tremendous boxer. Might not be the prettiest style, but it's the most effective style that he could do and he created for himself. It's just their natural technique.
Yes. And again, that's a great point actually that I wanted to roll onto in terms of the Klitschko fight. You were there. Obviously, a lot of. So when I was in the US, Stitch, what had surprised me during the lead up was that a lot of, not just necessarily the American media, even some of the American boxers, I felt they didn't have a true appreciation of Tyson Fury because they were just saying, Wilder would knock him out, but it wasn't with any sort of like technical breakdown behind it. It was just no Wilder will knock him out. And I began to get that feeling that Fury was not appreciated or understood in America. Do you think that's a fair statement to make?
No, it's everybody's an armchair quarterback, and like I say, with all the interviews I did, questions were asked like that and so on. And I said, look, I do. Whenever I work a fight, I forget that these guys can fight because everybody fights. That's why they're there. But I always look at numbers. What are the possibilities of this, or what's the percentage of this? And if you break down the last Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder fight, if you take away those 2 knockdowns, Tyson Fury beat him, pretty soundly. And and then I also said that, the thing with numbers is Tyson Fury has 2 ways of winning, either by decision or by knockout. And Deontay Wilder only has 1 way of winning, and that's by knockout. So I look at percentages of probabilities, and of course, anybody's subject to get knocked out at any time. That's the nature of the game. That's what they do. But you look at percentages, and you look at possibilities based on numbers. That's how I look at fights, and I don't make predictions of who's going to win or who's going to lose because we're all making predictions. But if you ask me the probability of cut in a fight, then I could answer that a lot more intelligently.
So what was the probability of a cut for Fury going into this fight?
Slim. Slim. And, it's funny, man, because the week before, in those 2 weeks I was there, I got a great relationship with the whole family, Tyson and the whole family. Just, they call themselves the Mexicans of that side of the water. They were the Irish travelers, and, I grew up as a farm worker Mexican, so we had that in common, right? And but just good people, man. I had a blast working with them, and I worked the bare knuckle fights the week before in Florida, and I came back, and I think it was like Tuesday. He's putting the shoes on, and I said, Tyson, I've been doing a shitload of interviews, and everybody's asking about the cuts. I said, but everybody's concerned about the cut except you and I. He goes, yeah, I'm not worried about the cut. So I took that out of his mind to go out there and fight. And you're talking about the psychological aspect, like when Vladimir Klitschko fought Anthony Joshua, 90,000 people, Wembley Stadium, right? So I didn't see Vladimir till the weigh-ins on Friday because my daughter had got married in Crete on Wednesday. So Thursday I flew to London, and I saw him at the weigh-ins. But as a confidence builder, like I said, I put my hand on his shoulder, and I said, don't worry about anything. Tomorrow I'm going to take care of you like you're my son. It's like I tell everybody. So here's where the psychological aspect comes in is right before Michael Buffer does the announcements, I'm putting the final base of Vaseline on him, and his face is 8 inches away from mine, and between him and I, he says, you could call me son. But see, I knew that night before I had gotten into his head, and I took that out of his memory bank. And the same thing with Tyson Fury. He says, I'm not worried about the cut. So, that's outside of just being a cut man that wraps hands and work cuts, there's a lot of angles. You have to understand the heart and soul of the fighter. And that's why I told Tyson I like to get into the heart and soul of a fighter, to know him as a character and not as a fighter, because everybody fights.
Yeah, no. And Stitch, have you had a chance to look back at the events on Saturday night at all? Have you had a chance to watch the fight back? Have you had a chance to look back at the fight, to watch the fight again?
Oh, me?
Yes.
No, you know how crazy it's been, man. I mean, I got home about 3:30 and I watched the fight, but I was exhausted. And then at 9 o'clock in the morning, I drove 4 hours to Los Angeles to go meet with CBD Science, one of my sponsors, and one more round, my partner with my apparel company. So I came back, and I've been running, haven't stopped interviews after interviews. So I want to sit back today and just kind of just sit back and watch the fight, and and study it more. I saw it as a fan, a tired fan, but when I get back, in fact, I'm leaving tomorrow to Dallas to work some fights with Jesse Vargas against Mickey Garcia. But I have the zone on my wrong network. Boop, scratch that one out.
I'll edit it.
Too many, bro.
Too many. So I mean, the reason I was asking that was just to kind of, I guess, and just to get your thoughts on not just obviously the performance, and I would like to get your thoughts on that once you have seen the fight again. But I guess really there's no better place to start than sort of the reaction from Deontay Wilder and the list of excuses, and whether they're excuses or whether the size he's coming out with. There's three key things I would think, and I'd like to break it down for you. One is the position of Mark Breland and the rumors going on around that. Secondly, it's the costume, and then I guess thirdly is sort of costume in the ring walk, and thirdly the fact that Wilder saying he didn't feel Tyson Fury hurt him, and I'll go over that if you need be. But yeah, just talk to me about the Mark Breland and the camp, and also the fact you mentioned there was no cut man in their corner.
Yeah, one of the things I always study. Good question again, man. I'm impressed. Well, we do this shit all night.
Thank you very much.
But no, great questions. And but as like I say, I was studying the fight, and up in the third round. By the third round, I'm telling myself is that there's no way that Deontay Wilder is going to knock out Tyson Fury. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling that to myself, And in the fifth round, I remember I told Sugar Hill and Tyson, I said, you know what, they're going to be throwing the towel in pretty soon. Enough. So basically, not to give instructions, but to let you know that's what's going to happen. So mentally, you turn it on and put the pressure on them, right? But I knew that they were going to throw it in, and what Mark Breland did was the right thing to do. I did that with Andre Terrell when he fought. He was taking shots, like I told him, that were long-term damage shots, and this is what Deontay Wilder was receiving, were shots that could create long-term damage. Outside of short-term would be the cuts and all that, but long-term. And those are the type of shots that he was accumulating. And if it would have gone 12 rounds, it never would have been the same. So what Mark Breland did was absolutely the right thing to do, 100%. And not even knowing that was going on after the fight, of course, I did interviews, and I mentioned that, you know what, if I was Tyson or Deontay Wilder's people, I would give him a long, long time off because it's that long-term damage. And that was just my opinion, but of course, 100% right. No question that Mark Breland did the right thing.
Yeah. No, and thank you for that. I mean, a lot of people have, if we're being honest, really questioned why they decided to do that. Now, obviously, you can't get into the fighter's head, but you've gone through that experience. Do you feel it is a case of trying to accept defeat? It's their way of coping with the defeat, even though it doesn't come across very well.
Yeah, of course, 100%. Yeah, of course. Oh, shit, I slipped. Oh, shit, I did this. Tyson Fury was the better man by far that night, by far. Yeah. He just looked, and Deontay Wilder's a big man. I worked against him when Sergey Lahovich fought, and at that time, and I've seen him countless times, and he's a big man, but not against Tyson Fury. I couldn't believe how big that was. That extra 40 pounds was the best thing that they could have done for his career.
Yeah. And I mean, he really did look good in terms of being able to move the weight around and use that force and apply that pressure throughout times in the fight. So again, I just want to come to you now on the I want to say the ring walk costume, because they are two in one, and obviously we've heard Wilder talk about that. But from being on the opposite side of the corner, would you advise your fighter to wear a costume like that? And did you look at him and think that's going to be a problem for you?
Yeah, damn, I love your questions. My wife said it best. When I saw it, I thought, it's pretty sharp, right? It's pretty sharp.
Yeah.
It lights up and all that stuff. But my wife sent me a text, and she says, you know what? It's like the devil. Tyson Fury came in as the positive, right?
Yeah.
Smiling, the king, and this and that, being carried on the throne. And Deontay Wilder has the look of the devil, dark mask and all that. And my wife said that, so she, I think, probably said it best. There was, that was kind of an overkill. And when I look and when I break down what goes on in their system, in their camp, for them to have concentrated that much on that type of outfit really showed me that maybe they weren't as deeply involved in the actual fight, more on the marketing. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, because I kind of look at that. I mean, with Tyson Fury, when he put on the robe and the crown in the dressing room, man, I just got a big smile on that because, you know what, he looked like royalty. You know, so he came in with a positive thing, and Deontay Wilder also came out with, you know, shit, I don't know what he came out with, but I know there's been some, you know, these social media are tough. They can be tough, man. They got some memes or minds or whatever they call them of him,
the internet,
this and that and this and that. So everything backfired for him.
Yeah, I mean, the internet is a very cool place, and nobody defeats the internet. Even Tyson Fury would struggle to defeat the internet. But what I would say is, and just to go on to the point, I mean, it does kind of ask questions of the mindset, you know, because it's a very elaborate costume. Ultimately, the one objective of the fighter is to go in there and fight, and in trying to create intimidating costumes, I'm not sure they're the right thing. That's the right way to go about it. I always preferred Mike Tyson, shorts, boots, walk into the ring made with a silk robe, and that's it. So I don't think it caused an impact to his performance, but I do think as using this as an excuse is a very poor way to go down as a heavyweight champion, and it is quite sad.
Yeah. No, I thought the outfit was cute walking in. I thought, oh, shit, that's pretty nice, man. You know? Yeah. But intimidating, it didn't even come across my mind until you mentioned that word just now.
Yeah, you see? So yeah, and then I guess the last thing, actually I wanted to, is well, not the last question, but last thing around the whole Wilder, is he said that he wants to enact the rematch. There's potential dates being bandied around. I guess the question would be, would you go back into count with Fury again for this fight? And do you think actually we need to see the rematch?
Yeah, of course. It was fun working with him, and that's what I like working with. Whenever I work with all these great fighters, it's more about personalities and how they treat people, and the relationship that I had in 2 weeks with Tyson Fury was tremendous, you know. And but yeah, of course, you know, it's because they brought me in for a purpose, and they brought me in for the purpose of making sure that if he got cut, he was going to be okay, and making sure if I could maintain it. So that was my only purpose, and that is my only purpose. But for them to consider me for the second event, of course, I'll jump on it in a heartbeat. Should there be a third match? You know, I think if they're talking about, July or something like that?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how Deontay Wilder is right now, you know, what happened with the results and all that. But, yeah, same thing will happen. You know, I don't think Deontay Wilder, there's not enough time to show him how to fight. And I've always thought that he was a big banger, but not really a boxing technician.
So, and on that point, Stitch, would you say, because a few people have said there's not enough time, so I'm not even going to give the drama of step aside money, but if Wilder was to be given a year, he took a year out, within that year he just had one sort of gimme fight, but within that year he tried to approach a more smarter style with the fundamentals being shown constantly. Do you feel it's possible, given his age, that he could make those adjustments, especially against a fighter like Fury?
No.
Yeah.
Not within 5 months, you know. And see, that's one of the things that you got to, when you break it down, is the shell shock factor. Yeah. You know, how are you going to overcome that? And if you get that rematch within 5, even 6 months, you're still going to have that shell shock effect. And the first time that Deontay Wilder gets hit by Tyson Fury, you know, how's he going to handle the pressure of, damn, I'm here again? See what I'm saying? So there's, you know, the mental game is extremely, extremely more important than really the physical aspect of it. And but like, you know, I interviewed Mike Tyson a while ago, and I said, you know, every fighter has that one little thing that nobody has. What is that one little thing? And very simply, he says, take the pain. You have to learn to take the pain. And that's 100% true.
Yeah, definitely. That's some wise words. So I guess, Stitch, just talk to me about Sugar Hill, because again, I see over in the UK we're getting to find out about him a bit more. He seems very he seems like he's got a very good sense of humor, but he comes across very sort of methodical and I guess he's very serious about any tactic he's going to employ. Do you feel he learned the most potentially from his uncle around a lot of the coaches that are fighting in the game, also teaching in the game now?
Yeah, to be a great trainer outside of techniques, you got to know how to deal with people, different personalities, because every fighter has a different personality. And like say, deep inside, they're all babies, but they're all men. And, what Sugar Hill has gotten out of his uncle has been priceless. And, I think that just kind of, it gave him a platform to show what he has done and what Emmanuel Stewart has created. And that formula seems to work. So, yeah, I think, him and Tyson Fury got along great. Andy Lee, you can't forget Andy Lee because he was a big part of that. And I'd worked with Andy Lee before when he fought under Emmanuel Stewart. So the whole team, the three of us, have already been working together before. But, yeah, Sugar Hill's good at what he does. If Tyson Fury feels comfortable that he wants to use him the second time, I would applaud him on that.
Yeah. No, that's good. And Stitch, so I just wanted to ask you about yourself and I guess your career. How did you get into boxing, and especially how did you end up being one of the most widely recognized cutmen?
You're going to have to read my book.
You plug that. Yeah, let us know if you what's the title.
Let me tell you, I wrote a book called From the Fields to the Garden because I grew up as a farm worker. Picking the tomatoes, and like I say, I'm Mexican by nationality, so I'm the farm workers in California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas that pick the product, the fruit. So that's what I did all my life. So that the book is called From the Fields to the Garden. So growing up as a farm worker in the fields, and the garden is Madison Square Garden. So I've been there before, many times now. And as a matter of fact, they're starting to film a documentary on my life based off the book From the Fields to the Garden. That's available at Amazon.com, by the way. Yeah, so they're starting to do that, but the way I got started is I was in the Air Force from 1972 to 1976. You weren't even born, but in 1974 they stationed me in a place called Thailand, and I was a young kid, didn't even know what Thailand was, but I saw my first Muay Thai fight, and on the base they had some programs, martial arts programs for the GIs, and so that whole year I ate, slept, and dreamt martial arts and came back and opened my own school of kickboxing when I got back to the States. And I was a trainer. I was a cut man, but cut man kind of floated to the top. So I moved to Las Vegas 26 years ago to do what I do now. And at that time it was only boxing. And then I knew Dana White from the gyms way before the UFC. And he's the one that brought me in, and in all fairness, changed my whole life because he gave me that exposure. But in the same token, he changed my life again because he let me go because I spoke out about unfair practices with sponsorship deals and all that. So he made me the face of the rebellion. And so that's what's gotten me here. I've gotten a lot of work and my, doing a lot of see, when I moved to Vegas 26 years ago, I really had a lot of experience as a cut man in kickboxing because of course, elbows and knees and all that. So when I moved here, nobody knew who I was. And all of a sudden I started performing, and they wondered how in the hell did this guy come in, but they didn't know that I had practice, a lot of practice before I moved to Las Vegas. And so here I am. I just, working with a lot of great fighters and treating fighters good and, performing, bottom line.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say something, Steve. So there's an author called Malcolm Gladwell. He writes a lot of these sort of I'll say they're sort of like self-help books, but it's a studying of success. And what he's got one of these rules where it shows 10,000 hours of success. If you do 10,000 hours of anything, you ultimately become the best. And when in his book he talks about people like the Beatles, Bill Gates, and they actually had success in other areas before they became known for what they were known for. And I think it sounds quite similar with your story. Your experience in kickboxing, with the elbows, the knees, and obviously the punching and blows from the foot, probably helped you transcend into boxing and start you at a higher level as well. So that's really interesting to know.
Well, I was also working with boxers in Northern California. but kickboxing was my core. As a matter of fact, the first world title fight that I worked in boxing was Tony the Tiger Lopez from Sacramento, California, against Julio Cesar Chavez, the legend, in Monterrey, Mexico. That was my first world title fight, and I haven't stopped since. So I know I've been blessed, and and you're talking about those numbers of, making these transitions. Yeah, outside of the techniques of what I do in boxing, but I'm also, a businessman. And this opportunity here, working with Tyson Fury, was, it was a platinum position. And so I got to tell you this story because I think it's important to know the character of Tyson Fury. So when I met Tyson, we shook hands, of course. Second thing, we talked about the cuts. And, the third thing, I told him, I said, look, Tyson, I work on sponsors. If you remember, the UFC let me go because they got rid of our sponsors, and I did an interview on how it affected the cutmen, so-and-so. So now I got sponsors back. But I told him, I said, I work with sponsors, and I have my own apparel company called One More Round. Do you mind if I make an outfit like your, same colors as you, and put my sponsors on it? He put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, Stitch, you could do whatever you want. And he just happened to have his shorts at the gym with him, and he pulled them out, and I took a picture of them, and I sent them to my partner, Mark Zucker, and the outfit that you see me wearing was the debut of One More Round. So that opportunity came, and not only do I just work as a cut man, but I'm also as a businessman.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I'm definitely going to make sure we put some promotional details. So you said it's One More Round?
Yeah, of course, man. And send me your address. We'll send you some products.
Oh, perfect.
I don't give stuff away. I don't have I have my own tape and all that because I don't have to. But on this here, of course, it's nice. People like you that would help me out, and
exactly.
Vidal Riley, I'm going to give him a bomber jacket today, and KSI, when I work with KSI and Gibb, we hooked them up on some apparel and all that. So, of course, man. I appreciate all the help, and it's a good opportunity.
Definitely. And I guess the question I did want to ask you is what words of, not necessarily just encouragement, but advice would you give any young professional that wants to get into the game of boxing? Not everybody can be a fighter, not everybody can be a coach. But what advice would you potentially give somebody that wants to try something different in the sport of boxing, whether it be a cut man, whether it be, within the corner somehow?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question again. And I don't know, you might be young. Do you remember Cornelius Boza Edwards?
No, I don't.
Have you ever heard of that name? Okay, well, he was a world champion out of the UK. Super guy from Uganda originally. Boza Edwards. And so he's at the Mayweather gym working with Floyd and them. But when I met him 28 years ago, first time I went to the UK, I took a boxer to fight Richie Woodall in Wolverhampton, England. And that's when I met Boza, and he said, and I told him I want to make the move to Las Vegas to be a cut man. And he told me the advice he gave me, and I tell everybody is, he said, you need three things. You need a job, a place to stay, and a car, because not everybody financially is going to make it in this business. And I've always told people is you got to do it for the love of the game and not for the money, because if you do it for the money, you do it for the wrong reasons. And so that's the advice I could give them, and, and don't expect to be successful right off the bat.
Yeah, no, perfect. Stitch, it's been a pleasure speaking to you for these 30 to 40 minutes. We're going to shout out your Instagram social media, but are you on Facebook and Twitter? Can you tell are you on any of those platforms?
Yeah. At Stitch Duran. That's one of the great things. I'm 68 years old, so and me and Mark Zucker, my partner, One More Round, we're talking about, we got to have these young guys that do social media for us because we don't know what we're doing. But when I started working from the time I worked with KSI and Gibb, I think I've gotten like 15,000, 16,000 new followers, and it's unbelievable. So, I think I'm at Stitch Duran.
Perfect. And then Facebook, are you on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. But like for followers, I think I'm maxed out already. I got like 5,000 followers.
Okay, no worries. So yeah, no, and in terms of when you mentioned though you want to get some younger guys to do your social media, to be honest, the best strategy you probably could have had was working with the likes of KSI, Anderson Gibb and Vidal, because they're social media kings. So you keep working with them, you're going to be just fine.
Oh, thanks, man. See, I just learned from another young guy. So you're never too old to learn.
Never. You're never too old to learn. Thank you very much. Listen, Stitch, thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the week, and hopefully we'll speak again soon. But I really do appreciate you.
Yeah, man, I tell you, props to you, brother. I've done a ton of interviews, and that's why you and I could speak. How long did we speak? About 40 minutes?
40 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, the questions were, it was barbershop talk, as I call it. We just
that's
sat
what
there
we
and
like.
talked, and you educated the fans. So
no, you educated the fans as well, so much appreciated.
All right,
Thank you.
man.
Take care.
All the best.
Take care.
Cheers.
All the best. Bye-bye. Bye.